දවස් 30ක්ම unlimited Netflix බලන්න. Unlimited data pack එකක් මුළු පවුලටම unlimited fun එකක් අරගන්න. අදම active කරගන්න.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, looming lockdown. Sri Lanka reports highest single-day COVID-19 tally as authorities say any lockdown depends on cluster severity.
Depending on the spread in the country, we'll be thinking of whether we need quarantine curfew in some other areas.
Get with the system. DIG Ajit Rohana tells the public to be truthful about their movements and support containment efforts. Teflon tales. Former Prime Minister says Sirisena's partisan behaviour broke good governance, while the ex-president himself says a president cannot be blamed for official negligence. Reaching for the sky. Sri Lankan Airlines chairman Ashok Patirage reveals hopes for a return to profit by 2022. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Tuesday, the 6th of October, 2020.
Nava Sunlight Sakura. Then Dikukal Pavatina Sakura Mal Suandin.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamke Kanayaka. In the latest news from the Gampaha COVID-19 cluster, a total of 605 new patients were detected today following emergency PCR tests as authorities raced to close down the Gampaha Police Division to prevent any further spread by unnecessary public movements. This brings the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country to 708 as of the latest reports. The curfew imposed in the Gampaha Police Division came into effect from 6 o'clock this evening and will remain in place until further notice. Meanwhile, employees of the Brandix garment factory that account for the majority of the new cases have been requested to remain at their current locations and avoid venturing outside.
The Minuwangoda cluster, which caused the sudden uptick in COVID-19 numbers in the island, continues to grow, increasing its total to 708. The first to be identified were the apparel factory employee from Dulapitia and her daughter. Subsequent PCR tests identified 706 more infected people, making it the country's brand new COVID-19 cluster. From them, 101 infections were reported yesterday and 605 were reported today. This so far is the highest number of infections reported in a single day within the country. Up to now, 694 infected persons have been identified from Minuwangoda alone in the Gampaha district. Meanwhile, 3 cases were detected from Mirigama, 2 each from Dulapitia and Katana, and 1 each from Siduwa, Jayala and Mahara. Further, 2 infected persons were identified from Kurunagala and 1 each from Jaffna and Monoragala, who were on leave.
495ක් හැරුණු කොටගෙන අනිත් සියලු දෙනාම සිටින්නේ ඔය කියපු පොලිස් බල ප්‍රදේශය තුල. එතකොට මේ ඉතුරු 495 ලංකාවේ විවිධ ප්‍රදේශවල ලිපිනයන් සඳහන් ණයවලුන්. එම මේ බල ප්‍රදේශවලින් පිටත්ව ගිහිල්ලා හිටපු විවිධ ප්‍රදේශවලට ගියපු සියලුම අයවලුන් අපි ඊයේ දිනේදීම හඳුනාගෙන පිටපළාත්වල හිටියත් මේ කොයි 17 දින වූ අයවලුන්ගේ පවුල් මේ සේවක සේවිකාවන් පසුගිය සති 3 තුලදී නැත්නම් මේ මාසයක් වෙනි කාලයක් තුලදී මේ නිවෙස් වලට ගිහිල්ලා නැහැ. ඒක හින්දා එහෙම ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා හිටියපු සියලුම අයවලුන් පවුල් වල අයවලුන් අපි මේ වෙනකොට නිරෝධායන කරලා තියෙනවා.
In the meantime, 33 of the garment factory employees confirmed to be COVID-19 positive yesterday were accommodated at a hostel in the area of Minuwangoda provided by the company. After testing positive, they were rushed to the Minuwangoda base hospital by the public health inspectors. Iranavila Hospital and Minuwangoda Base Hospital are being used to treat the patients reported from the Gampaha district. Accordingly, the infected persons identified from the areas of Minuwangoda and Dulapitia were taken to those hospitals today. PCR tests were also conducted on their associates today.
Some of these people were living in very far away areas, has been to their homes after holidays, and our regional epidemiologist in respective districts along with the medical officer of health has traced these people and quarantined them in their residences and has done PCR testing. Accordingly, that we have identified several cases in Jaffna, Monaragala, Kurunegala and Matale districts, and we expect that we will be identifying, detecting more and more cases. We are very kindly requesting all the people that who are working in this Brandix factory, as well as their relatives, family members and also other close contacts, to remain at their residences, not to move around and be subjected to PCR testing as instructed by our health authorities. Then we will be able to identify more and more cases if there are any among these family members. After we identified all the cases, we will be identifying all the contacts of these people and we will be tracing them and will be quarantining. And also after thorough evaluation, we will be able to get an idea to how extent this cluster has been spread in the country, and depending on that we will be thinking of whether we need any quarantine curfew in some other areas or in the Gampaha district or not. So it will be a matter of decision in coming days.
Apparel manufacturer Brandix meanwhile reiterated its cooperation to the health authorities and the Sri Lanka Army in controlling the situation by way of a statement. In the meantime, the roommate of the very first employee infected with the virus from the Ulapitiya is directed to the quarantine centre in Punani. The 34-year-old, who is also an employee at the same apparel factory, had returned to her home in Dehiyattakandiya, which resulted in 9 of her associates being put in quarantine. PCR tests of around 60 associates of her direct contacts were also conducted by the Office of the Medical Officer of Health in Dehiyattakandiya today. Meanwhile, a manager of the factory was also identified to be COVID-19 positive yesterday, and he was directed to the quarantine facility in Valikanda. The 50-year-old father of 2 had returned to his home in Ahlepula of Matale, which led to his family being placed under self-quarantine. Also, 2 female employees of the apparel factory in question had returned to their residences at the New Forest Estate in Puparasa of Gampula, following which one of them was admitted to the Kandy National Hospital with high temperature. Health officials took steps to direct the other employee to a quarantine facility after PCR tests were performed on both of them. Due to this situation, steps were taken to grant leave to employees of the relevant estate in order to restrict their movement. In more developments, with 2 employees of the Minuangoda factory testing positive for COVID-19, measures were taken to transfer them to the Infectious Diseases Hospital. 60 of their associates were also subjected to PCR tests today. Meanwhile, 4 more employees of the factory in question had visited their homes in Mollipotana, Kantalava, Agbopura and Rajala in Kantale last week, which resulted in their families and relatives being subjected to self-quarantine. In addition, a group of students from Kantale were also placed under self-quarantine after they were found to have attended tuition classes in Gampaha. In another development, with a 41-year-old apparel factory worker residing in Pubbara in Bibila of the Monaragala district contracting the virus yesterday, 39 of her associates were immediately directed to quarantine centres. Elsewhere, PCR tests were carried out on 95 students and members of staff of the Vaunia campus today for coming into contact with a group of students from Gampaha who visited the campus of the Jaffna University recently. In more news, 5 members of a family in Vaunia who had come into contact with a factory employee in Minuangoda were subjected to PCR tests today. In one of the latest updates, PCR tests conducted on 43 students and 58 teachers and non-academic staff members who came into contact with the daughter of the patient 0 of the Minuangoda cluster returned negative today. What's more, a police curfew was imposed in the Gampaha police area with effect from 6 p.m. today. With the breaking of the news on the imposition of the curfew, shops in Gampaha were seen crowded with people. Accordingly, the police curfew will remain in effect until further notice in the police divisions of Minuangoda, Diulapitiya, Veyangoda and Gampaha. Therefore, employees of factories in the curfew-imposed areas are requested to remain in their current locations. Family members of the Brandix factory employees, on the other hand, are also requested to remain home and to refrain from venturing out.
Enjoy a very smooth shave with the Bic Easy 2 razor. Bic Easy.
Meanwhile, several measures were taken today as well with the aim of preventing the spread of the virus any further. With health authorities calling for a halt to mass convergence of people, several government departments have decided to keep their offices closed in the coming days. In the meantime, Head of Traffic Police DIG AdaDerana requests the public to be truthful about their movements and support the quarantine process, assuring anonymity for those feeling sensitive over divulging their whereabouts. In another development, the governor of the Western Province advises all tuition classes within the province to be closed until further notice.
The latest COVID-19 cluster to emerge in Sri Lanka surprised the people. Authorities encouraged the people to return to the level of vigilance which was observed not so long ago when a cluster broke out at the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Centre. With that being the case, the Ministry of Health says that public gatherings such as exhibitions, conferences, parties, indoor and outdoor events, carnivals, musical shows and processions should not be conducted until further notice. In the meantime, State Minister of Bus Transport Services, Dilum Amunugama, says that bus operators should maintain a list of people travelling for more than 3 to 4 kilometres.
ඊයේ දිනේ අපේ කොන්දොස්තරවරයෙක්ගේ බිරිඳ ආසාදිතයෙක් බවට පත්වීම හේතු කොටගෙන ඒ කොන්දොස්තරවරයා නිරෝධායනයට අපි දාලා තියෙනවා. ගිරිඋල්ල සිට නිට්ටඹුව දක්වා ධාවනය වෙච්ච පෞද්ගලික බස් රථයක කොන්දොස්තරවරයෙක් මෙතෙන්දිත් අපි එයාට උපදෙස් දීලා තියෙනවා. අඩුම තරමේ කිලෝමීටර 3ට 4ට වැඩි ගමන් වාරවල යෙදෙන අය තමන්ගේ බස් රථයේ මගීන්ගේ ලයිස්තුවක් දුරකථන අංකෙත් එක්ක ලබා ගන්නයි කියලා මේ සදා සහයෝගය දෙන්න කියන ඉල්ලීමත් අපි ජනතාවගෙන් කරනවා. ඒක අපි කරන්නේ බැරි වෙලා හරි එක ආසාදිතයෙක් හරි මේ බස් රථයේ තුල හිටියොත් අනිත් අය සුරක්ෂිත කිරීම සඳහා අපි ගන්න ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයක්.
පෞද්ගලික බස් හිමියන් සඳහන් කරනවා ආසන වලට පමණ සීමාවල් මගින් ගෙන යාමේදී පාඩුවක් සිදු වෙනවා. ඔවුන්ට සහනයක් ලබා දෙන්න නැතොත් බස් ගාස්තු වැඩි වීමක් ලබා දෙන්න කියලා.
මේක සාධාරණයි. ඊයට විසඳුමක් ලබා දීම අපි පැත්තෙන් අපි කළ යුතුයි. දිගටම මේ තත්ත්වයේ පවත්වාගෙන යන්න සිදු වෙනවා නම් අපි යම් ගාස්තු සංශෝධනයකට යන්න සූදානම්.
Meanwhile, the offices of the Department of Motor Traffic located in Narahempeta and Verahara will remain closed until the 9th from tomorrow. In another development, the Department of Railways says that trains operating on the main line will not stop at any railway station between Gampaha and Veyangoda with effect from tomorrow. Taking the current COVID-19 situation into account, the Department for Registration of Persons have decided to keep its head office and provincial offices closed for 3 days from tomorrow until the 9th. The decision was taken as a measure to prevent large crowds gathering at the premises. However, urgent national identity card requirements, such queries with regards to the advanced level examination, can be made from the registration unit at relevant divisional secretariats. Queries can also be made by contacting the head office hotlines 0115 226 150 and 0115 226 115. The department also states that priority will be given to people who made appointments for the one-day service during the closed days once they commence operations. What's more, the Department of Immigration and Immigration will also be closed until the 9th from tomorrow. Meanwhile, Head of Traffic Police DIG AdaDerana requests the public to support the quarantine process by revealing true information.
ඊයේ හවස 5 වෙනකොට 39 දෙනෙක් අත්අඩංගුවටගෙන තිබුණ ඇදිරිනීති කඩකලාට අපි නිරන්තරයෙන් දැනුම් දුන්නා පිටතට යන්නට එපා රැඳී ඉන්න කියලා. නමුත් ඊයේ රාත්‍රී තවත් 12 දෙනෙක් අත්අඩංගුවටගෙන තිබෙනවා වේයන්ගොඩ ප්‍රදේශයේ විවිධ ස්ථානවලින් නිරෝධායන ඇදිරිනීතියට පටහැනිව කටයුතු කරපු. ඒ අනුව ඔක්කොම 50 දෙනෙක් මේ වන විට අත්අඩංගුවට අරගෙන තියෙනවා පෙරේදා ඉඳලා. ඒ අයට විරුද්ධව අපි නිරෝධායන රීතීන් යටතේ කටයුතු කරනවා. සමහර අය තම පිළිබඳව ඇසුරු කරපු අය ආපු ගියපු තැන් ගැන තොරතුරු දෙන්න බයයි. ඒකට හේතුව සමහර වෙලාවට වැරදි ස්ථානවලට ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මේ වෙලාවේ අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. ඒ ස්ථානෙට ගිය එක ගැන අපිට නඩුවක් පවරන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ ඒ ස්ථානෙට ගියා නම් එතන කවුද හිටියේ, කවුද ඇසුරු කරේ, වටේට කවුද හිටියේ මේ තොරතුරු මේ නිරෝධායන ක්‍රියාවලියට ලබාගෙන ඒ නිරෝධායන ක්‍රියාවලිය හරියාකාරව සිදු කරන්න. ඒක නිසා එහෙම යම් කෙනෙක් මැලිකමක් දක්වනවා නම් ඒ තොරතුරු දෙන්න තමුන් ගැන අනාවරණය වෙයි, තමුන්ට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙයි කියලා අපි පොරොන්දුවක් දෙනවා. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Now, in the meantime, Cabinet spokesperson Kehelia Rambukwala says that the final decision on the advanced level and the Grade 5 scholarship examinations will be taken tomorrow after the results of the PCR tests return. Addressing the Cabinet media briefing this morning, the Minister also went on to say that further decisions pertaining to the situation will be taken based on the scale of the virus spread.
Health authorities still trying to get the source of this
That's exactly what they are doing. That is where the investigations are centered too. Because you need to find the source. Because what happens, perhaps there would cases and then they would have settled on their own. Now here we have found somebody, and then now with the investigations that we find that you have 321 positive cases. And we have now, within the last 24 hours, we have taken another 2,000 tests wherever we feel that it should be done. And the results will come by evening or by tomorrow morning. So then we will have to take the appropriate action thereafter.
Don't you think a new strategy or new mechanism has to be followed to control the
I suppose this is something that needs rapid thinking and rapid changes, because it has to be accordingly. Now you have, as we say, that there have been a complaisance, and that has to be looked into, and then the people must take it seriously as to the consequences of this. Therefore, so major part of the public to assist the government in this regard. And I'm sure, as we know, that there are second waves and third waves, and there not been any successful remedies for this as of now. So therefore, we have to be very cautious, and then we need to be cautious until we find some remedies to start with. But leave that alone. It may be. Our being cautious, our being careful, our stick to the regulations and that are made by the government must be adhered.
The minister also commented about the decision on advanced level and grade 5 scholarship examinations.
ඉදිරි පැය 48 ඉතාමනාත්මකයි මේ සම්බන්ධව ගත යුතු තීරණ ගැනීමට ඒ පරීක්ෂණවල ප්‍රතිඵල අනුව එය සිදුවෙන එක තමයි අපට මේ වෙනකොට ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. ඒ වගේම 12 වෙනිදා උසස් පෙළ විභාග පෙළ ඒ වගේම ශිෂ්‍යත්ව විභාගයේ 11 වෙනිදා මේ වෙනකොට සැලසුම් හදලා තියෙනවා. අවශ්‍ය සියලුම සැලසුම් සහ අනිකුත් සියලුම පහසුකම් සියලු දේ හදලා ඉවරයි. කෙසේ වෙතත් හෙට DCR වාර්තාවන් අනුව අවසාන තීන්දුවක් ගැනීමට අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශ අපරොත්තු වෙනවා.
එතකොට එමෙතුමා මේ PCR පරීක්ෂණ වල කියන්නේ අද තත්ත්වය හොඳ කියන්නේ මුළු රටටම නැවත ඇඳරි නීතිය පැනවීමක් සිදු කරන්න බැයිද?
තීන්දුව తీරන ගහම ඒතල්ල වෙන්නේ ප්‍රමාණය අනුව.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay tuned.
Much better with you.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe told the Presidential Commission probing the Easter Sunday attacks today that despite being elected as a common candidate with the support of a massive coalition of parties, it was former President Maithripala Sirisena's partisan behaviour soon after assuming the SLFP chairmanship that broke the camel's back in the end. He stated that this was the reason that National Security Council meetings were confined to a select few, with proceedings kept a secret from other members of the government. Meanwhile, former President Maithripala Sirisena told the Commission yesterday that, like other presidents across the world who have dealt with terrorist tragedies, he will not accept blame for security failures.
Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe arrived at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday attacks this morning. Touching on the October 26 constitutional crisis, the Additional Solicitor General asked the former Prime Minister whether it was normal for conflict to arise within a close family. Wickremesinghe replied, "Which family does not have problems?" On October 26, 2018, Maitri decided to change the government. He believed that he had enough MPs backing him. In any case, after the October 26th incident, I was not invited to sit with the National Security Council. Anyway, I also asked Mahinda Rajapaksa, the former Prime Minister of the 52-day government, whether at least he was invited to sit on the Security Council. But it turned out that even he wasn't asked to attend. Wickremesinghe added, although the UNP and several other parties worked to field Maithripala Sirisena as the common candidate, he later displayed signs of partisanship after taking over the SLFP chairmanship. This was criticised even by Venerable Maduluwave Sobitha. The Additional Solicitor General then asked Wickremesinghe, did the October 26 constitutional crisis happen because of the UNP not lending its support for President Maithripala Sirisena? Wickremesinghe replied, he never commanded a strong vote base. He didn't even have the full support of the SLFP. It was me who ensured the support of the other parties for him. Your line of questioning is one-sided. Wait, one day I will write a book containing all these stories. After 1.5 hours of testimony, the President's Counsel, who appeared for the former Prime Minister, requested the Commission to adjourn the proceedings today and give him an alternate date as his client was of ill health. Accordingly, the Commission adjourned the recording of the testimony and ordered the ex-Premier to appear before it once again on October 13th. Meanwhile, former President Maithripala Sirisena testified yesterday with regards to the Easter Sunday attack response. The Additional Solicitor General at the Commission questioned the former president whether the then IGP and the Director of State Intelligence had attended a meeting of senior police officers chaired by the President on April 8, 2019. Sirisena replied that although the duo were present at the meeting, neither of them had informed him about the foreign intelligence warning that had been shared with SIS Director Nilantha Jayawardena. He also revealed that SIS Director Nilantha Jayawardena had spoken to him over the phone just after the attacks, saying, "Sir, there have been several explosions. I do not know if there will be more. I had informed Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando and IGP Pujit Jayasundara about this. The necessary steps have not been taken." To this, the Additional Solicitor General asked the ex-president, "Why did you not ask him why he informed them but failed to inform you?" He responded that he did question Jayawardena on this, who told him, "I only informed those who could have taken action. I tried contacting you last night, but I couldn't get through to you." The Additional Solicitor General then asked Sirisena if there was evidence to prove that the relationship between himself and SIS Director Nilantha Jayawardena can be described as somewhat of a father-son relationship, would he be prepared to accept it? The ex-head of state replied, "The father and son relationship existed between myself and Hemasiri Fernando, which is why I appointed him Defence Secretary. The Defence Secretary enjoys the respect of the Armed Forces chiefs and has a helicopter at his disposal. There are unlimited perks that come with the post." Hemasiri was also given key posts in a number of government institutions. "I have never heard of anyone being given such positions before. I gave him those posts because I have known him for over 25 years. Hemasiri used to take me home for meals as well." The Additional Solicitor General then asked the former president, when was it that such a dream of a relationship turned into a nightmare? The ex-head of state replied, "On the 21st of April 2019, the IGP and the Defence Secretary should be responsible for this. The attacks happened because they ignored intelligence warnings. I feel the most pain from this, however no one believes it. I became unpopular among the people because this happened during my tenure. Similar tragedies happen in other countries. However, because they happen, the president doesn't bear full responsibility. If there is terrorism in a country, it is the responsibility of the security forces to suppress it." The Additional Solicitor General then asked the former president, who was it that opposed the suggestion by the Armed Forces commanders to the National Security Council to ban the wearing of the niqab, citing threats to security. Sirisena responded, "The Prime Minister opposed the move at the cabinet meeting. All the Muslim ministers in the coalition government were supporters of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister raised objections because they were opposed to it. At that time there was a minority government. Ranil Wickremesinghe said that it would be a massive problem if the Muslim ministers left the government because of this issue."
Moving on with other local stories, police found 4 T56 assault rifles and 2 magazines owned by criminal gang member and drug racketeer Roha, who was gunned down by the police during a shootout recently. With that, let's take a look at Sri Lanka's war on drugs and the underworld.
The Police Special Task Force recently found 270 rounds live ammunition, including those used in T56 firearms, from a wooded area along the Devata Road in Ratmalana. Police said that the 4 suspects arrested over the find are close associates of organised criminal gang member and drug racketeer Gonakovile Roha. It was further revealed that the seized live ammunition is also the property of the criminal. Since the firearm was not found with the concealed ammo, the STF continued investigations. It led the STF to 4 T56 assault rifles and 2 magazines concealed at the foot of a power line post from a thicket in the area of Heriliyavala in Kahatuduwa. In the meantime, the anti-corruption unit of the Boralla police today found a 25-gram stash of heroin from a house in the area of Sivalipura in Boralla. The drugs had been concealed on the roof of the house within a sunglass case. The find is the result of a revelation made by a suspect arrested recently with 1.6 grams of heroin and 200,000 rupees in cash. Meanwhile, 2 suspects were arrested from the Sayurapura housing complex in Angulana last night with 7.6 grams of heroin. In Mattakulia, police apprehended 2 suspects today with 40 kilograms of Kerala cannabis. The police said the duo will be produced before the Maliga Kanda Magistrates Court tomorrow.
We will see you shortly. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Sri Lankan Airlines Chairman Ashok Patirage is hopeful of a return to profit by the year 2022, as he doesn't expect tourists to return in the near future due to operational complications of quarantine measures. He also hopes that the national carrier can someday emulate what Emirates Airlines has achieved for Dubai.
Sri Lankan Airlines Chairman Ashok Patirage says that despite the national carrier having looked at new revenue streams, such as focusing on cargo and repatriation flights, it is currently operating at only 20% of its usual pre-pandemic capacity, resulting in the airline's inability to cover even half of its costs. In an interview, Patirage added that with the country's airports remaining closed to inbound tourists and currently observing how other countries operate with pre-boarding test certificates and 14-day quarantines, he doesn't believe that the country can realistically enforce quarantine measures, which he says doesn't leave him expecting tourists to arrive anytime soon. Patirage stated that some of the countries Sri Lanka will be looking at for travel corridors are the UK, Australia and possibly Singapore and China. Further, he added that although recovery predictions may be difficult at this point, the airline hopes to be fully operational by 2022, especially if a workable vaccine can be released for public use. He stated that the airline has taken every measure possible to ensure its survival and hopes for a return to profitability by 2022, following major restructuring targeting the post-COVID-19 era. Patirage also stated that there exists a huge opportunity to develop Sri Lanka as a major hub, attracting more international carriers to Colombo to make use of its key geographical location connecting India to the Far East and connecting the Far East to Europe and beyond. In conclusion, the Sri Lankan chairman stated that he wants to do for Sri Lanka what Emirates has achieved for Dubai.
Now, taking a look at the Colombo bourse, Sri Lankan shares closed 0.9% down today as cases from the country's latest COVID-19 cluster continue to climb. The Colombo all-share price index fell 52.5 points to close at 5,534.61, while the S&P SL20 index of most liquid stocks closed down 13.95 points to end at 2,274.56. Now, here's a brief report on today's market performance.
Today again we saw heavy selling pressure as the market dipped by about 52 points as the rise in COVID-19 positive patients was continuing for a second consecutive day. So with the significant rise in the number of patients, we saw a heavy dip in the market during early hours of trading as the market dipped by around 130 points and then coming below the 5,400 psychological level, and then the market we saw a recovery, a sizable recovery as the market erased all the losses during midday and surged into positive territory as well. So during the midday at a certain point we saw the market which gained about a plus 100 points as well. However, with the number of patients again being released in excess of 200 patients, we saw again the market starting to dip. So with this we saw all the gains being erased and then the market coming back into negative territory as the market ended at 5,534 points, down by about 53 points.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.